Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Joshua Plant and I want to thank you for joining me in my office today. It's a little dirty as this is a little bit of a spontaneous call. This is something that I wanted to do live for a variety of purposes. One is I want to be able to answer some questions that may arise, and two, I want to kind of walk you through about the powers of controlling weight management by regulating your blood sugar, especially after a meal. So we're sitting at my desk now, but we're actually going to kind of go over here to the whiteboard in a little bit so that I can help illustrate how Zija products are so effective in helping people regulate and maintain normal blood sugar levels and help promote healthy weight, and how this all functions as part of a more complicated system with very simple products. So why don't we kind of go over to the whiteboard here and we can talk, and then as questions arise, I actually have Kimmy Bennett, our wonderful individual hiding behind the camera. She's nervously going to read a few questions for us. So, which by the way, as we do this, I want to take a few moments as we're getting ready to talk about this, to talk about the product of the period. This is where we show great power. There was a wonderful article that I published about 2.5 years ago showing that many of the Ameo essential oils work just as effectively, in many cases more effectively, than the chemical antibiotics, so to speak, that are flooding our cleaning agents and poisoning our lives. In fact, many of those chemical agents, such as triclosan, have been removed off of the market, somewhat removed off the market, due to the causing effects of cancer, as well as the prematuration of young girls. Now, it's removed from maybe your hand soap, but you'll still find triclosan in your toothpaste, which is why this is such a powerful with our ProShield line of products, where you can get hand soap, hand sanitizers, toothpaste, and a variety of others. So I want to have everyone look at the product, the period, which is actually products of the period. It's a group of all of these products that have been formulated with the ProShield blend, which was largely formulated from that research and development paper that was published in peer-reviewed scientific journals about 2.5 years ago. What we'll do, we'll actually put a link for that paper up after this, right? So I hope everyone's doing this. I can't see your questions yet. We'll have Kimmy read them in a little bit. But what I want to do is I'm going to go a little off the path here as we kind of do this live, is I want to talk a little bit about how your blood sugar is the magna cum laude, so to speak, of determining what we do, the central dogma of our weight management system. So here, on the y-axis, I'm going to have your blood sugar levels. Higher up the axis, the higher amount of blood sugar. Here on the x-axis, I'm going to just have time. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of mimic how the body responds when we eat a meal. So I'm going to put in a couple of arbitrary threshold lines. Before a meal, our blood sugar is going to be normal. Now, the reason it's normal is it's actually pulling sugar from our fat cells. It's converting the triglycerides in our adipose tissue and converting it into sugar. So if our body did have lipolysis or ketosis, it wouldn't pull that blood sugar. And so before a meal, our blood sugar would actually be really low and we would pass out. But to prevent our bodies from passing out, our bodies will actually go through ketosis, where it converts fat and then makes it into sugar. So our blood sugar levels. So our body inherently would be here, but ketosis puts it here. Nice, normal, healthy area. Now, what happens is as soon as we eat, all of a sudden our body is going to be breaking down those foods. Some of the foods are going to contain simple sugars that are readily absorbed into our blood system. Some are going to contain simple carbohydrates, more complicated carbohydrates, proteins and fats and so forth. And all of those are eventually, if our body so chooses, broken down into sugars, or can be. And what will happen is our blood sugar will spike. Have you noticed how quickly you feel better when you're really, really hungry? As soon as you take about 2 to 3 bites of food, all of a sudden your demeanor changes, you're happy. It's because your body, in just a matter of moments and seconds, is able to pull that sugar out and start filling your blood sugar levels, which makes you feel better. You're no longer in this ketosis state. You're now in a normal state. Now, you also could be in what would be considered like your insulin response state. So when your blood sugar shoots above the normal level, what happens is your beta cells in your pancreas will produce a compound called insulin. Insulin will then go into your blood system, and it functions a little bit like a key to open the door for your fat cells. So if I have a fat cell over here, and here's the blood, and here's a sugar molecule, that fat cell will not absorb the sugar molecule unless insulin opens the door for that fat cell. Insulin opens the door, then the sugar molecule goes into the fat cell, and your body then stores that extra fat. So what happens is when blood sugar spikes, we then get insulin. That makes sure our blood sugar doesn't go too high, and then our body will bring it back down. And so you can see, as our body is going through stages of ketosis or insulin response, it's always trying its best, unless you have obviously blood sugar disorders such as diabetes and so forth, it's always doing its best to put it in the normal region. And what you want to do is you need to facilitate that, because in here what's happening is you're promoting fat. In here, you're burning fat. Now, that's good and that's bad. Burning fat, living in a completely ketosis state all the time is not good. The reason it's not good is because there's only one molecule that our brain cells can actually feed off of, and that's glucose or sugar. And so people who work on a completely ketosis diet, in essence avoiding all carbohydrates, they are starving the most important part of their body, the brain. Their brain is constantly trying in ketosis to burn fat to get whatever carbohydrates or sugars it can out of the fat, which means your brain is just operating at a fraction of its true potential. So a complete absence of carbohydrates has risks. A complete abundance of carbohydrates has risks. There has to be this kind of delicate balance, and this is the beauty of a plant-based diet. When we look at plants, there is a variety of different botanicals, and they all contain different nutrients. They also contain carbohydrates, but most importantly, they also contain something called fiber. Fiber is the makes sense to everyone, is when we have a meal, we ingest the meal, our body's going to pull out that sugar. Quickly pull out that sugar and get that blood sugar high. Now, as it's going to break down different simple and complex carbohydrates, it will ultimately convert those into sugars. A great example of this, take a saltine cracker, which is a relatively simple carbohydrate, put it in your mouth, and let your saliva just break down that cracker. And all of a sudden the cracker is going to turn from just salty kind of bland, and it will turn into something very, very sweet. It's because it's such a simple carbohydrate, your saliva can actually break it down into simple sugars, and it will start to taste like a piece of candy. So this is kind of what our body will do. So our body, as we consume sugar, this is supposed to be a representation of a mouth. You're going to quickly realize, as my wife is the artist of the family, here's a person who ate his sugar, all right? And it comes down into the belly, it's quickly absorbed into the bloodstream through different parts. It will actually, some people believe that it can be actually absorbed as soon as it enters the intestine, right? Very, very quick response. And so what will happen is as it is absorbed, you'll get that blood sugar spike. But what fiber does is fiber will actually coat your intestine and different parts of the body, and it allows those sugars to still be absorbed, but it doesn't allow them to be absorbed quickly. Best example of this, orange juice, which has the fiber removed versus eating an orange, a whole food. Orange juice has the fiber removed. For those individuals that are diabetic whose blood sugar drops really low, what does the doctor usually recommend? Drink orange juice. The reason is there's so much sugar in there and there's no fiber, it's going to spike your blood sugar, in many cases even faster than a soda will. Now, eating an orange will not give you the same response. The reason is the fiber in that orange will actually coat the intestine, making the transition of sugar into the bloodstream a much slower delayed response. And so if we go back to our graph of the normal, you have that sugar, but what it's doing is it's making it stay in this region without instigating an insulin response. And that's the beauty of plants. and I'm not biased just because my last name is Plant, that is the real true beauty of plants, is they have been formulated divinely in such a way that in actuality, as you eat it, the body has the inherent responses. We've been living together since the beginning of time. Our bodies are dependent upon working with each other interchangeably. And so with having that response, you're able to modulate those blood sugar levels. So how do Zija products offer so much solutions to this? Well, what we've done is we've taken into account, we don't take a sledgehammer approach, as a lot of people will say with a ketosis diet, understanding that you have to feed a brain, but we also understand the ability of wanting to maintain normal blood sugar levels with respect to avoiding the insulin response. So for example, in Supermix, we have formulated it not using juice, we've actually formulated it using whole moringa parts, the leaves, the seeds, and the fruit, containing those inherent fibers. Additionally, SmartMix contains the powerful prebiotic and recently recognized by the FDA as one of the most powerful fibers, inulin, that will coat the intestinal tract. This allows the body to respond to those things appropriately. So as you see, for example, in Supermix, some people ask, hey, there's a gram of sugar in there. Well, that gram of sugar is actually in the Supermix to help the body absorb the nutrients. But you're not going to get the same response in blood sugar because it's ultimately coupled with the whole food botanicals and the fibers in the moringa. And so you're able to get the absorption of the nutrients, but you're also able to avoid the insulin response that may be instilled in that. And so what we've done at Zija International is we believe that there are 3 things we need to do in making sure we promote a healthy weight. The first is we need to make sure we control our appetite. Sugar has a powerful way of ultimately making us crave more. In fact, studies have shown it's as addictive as many drugs. And so what we've done is we need to control our appetite by ultimately getting rid of those addictive behaviors that sugar in many ways instigates. So we control that, and we can do that through an XM3 weight management capsule, just take one in the morning, or an XM-AM, or an XM-PM. Take one of these, and you can always take an XM-PM with the other one, but only one of the XM3 or the XM-AM, not both. That will help control so that we're not overeating, getting an abundance of food at one time to cause that insulin response. Additionally, we need to nourish, N-O-U-R-I-S-H. We need to nourish. Now, the reason we need to nourish is because there are parts of our brain, for example, that need those critical nutrients to function. And we just can't absolutely avoid those nutrients. And so what we do is we nourish with such things as such as Supermix to give our body to operate at the optimal level. And then the third is we need a detox. One of the most challenging things that can happen is food can maintain in our system for an extended period of time. With that food in our system for an extended period of time, it's going to slow our metabolism, but also with that food in our system for an extended period of time, the body actually instigates a variety of different pathways that promote weight gain. We want to have that moving quickly through our body as possible. All of these things are fundamentally based on regulating blood sugar and appetite control, because this is the central dogma of maintaining a healthy body weight. And we've structured our products around that fact. And so at Zija International, we have formulated a powerful weight management system using weight management capsules, Supermix, or for those that need energy, XM+, or for those that are looking for additional prebiotics in their life, SmartMix, and then to detox, the premium tea. These are things that are scientifically sound and validated to give people the optimal health, not a short-term solution of just eliminating carbohydrates from your life, but the long-term solution of a truly natural, healthy body. Thank you. Now, I'm going to force Kimmy to ask me the 2 questions that she's seen popped up. Kimmy, what's some of the questions?
What essential oils could help with this process?
Yes, that's a good question. Now, what we've seen over time is that there's additional features that we can use and supplement in addition to this regimen to help control our blood sugars. A lot of people will actually swear by peppermint oil and diffusing that and also cooking with it to help regulate their blood sugar levels. This is the power of essential oils, is the diversity in which you can use them. Black pepper is another great essential oil that you can cook with to help regulate blood sugar levels.
Okay, another question is, when you use ripsticks, are there any ingredients in there that could help with this process?
With the blood sugar?
Yeah, or when you're working out in general.
So this is something that we need to be careful of, right? Because when we're working out, we are ultimately going to be in the low region, inherently in the low region, because our body is burning the sugar so quick that what happens is you then fall into this ketosis state, which is good, you're burning fat. But you don't want to be so quickly in that state that you're ultimately starving the brain, becoming discouraged, ultimately unable to produce the dopamine that makes you feel happy while you're working out. And so what we've done is we've formulated ripsticks with certain carbohydrates that actually bring you up in to where you're able to dance in the ketosis state of burning fat, but you're also able to produce the dopamine to help you enjoy the workout and also fuel the brain, which is very much involved in making sure that we maximize our workout.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone, and I want to encourage you all to come to the convention. We're about 6 weeks away in Orlando. I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. See you in a few weeks.